Port Vale nil, Arsenal 2. Now, look, after the result of the weekend, this was the perfect opportunity to, freshen up the squad, bounce back, and, make sure we make it through in the League Cup. Because let's be honest, I think in Arteta's tenure and Arsenal's history, actually, to be fair, I don't feel like we've done enough justice in terms of how we compete in the League Cup. So listen, for me this season, I want to win the League Cup. Let's win the Carabao Cup, bro. Let's win it. Starting lineup was a strong lineup. Obviously, we saw quite a few rotations, and unsurprisingly enough, we had Mourinho continue to start. Obviously, I think he was actually filling in at the 9, but there was a couple occasions where I felt like counter attacks broke down because Mourinho lacked the pace to kind of go beyond, so that was what was lacking in this game. I thought Martinelli was quite positive, he was quite bright, as it had, some sparks, but largely I thought this game was quite drab. One of those games where it's just a snooze fest, you can't wait for it to be over, but most important thing is just get the win. But listen, that first goal was quality. A good exchange. It came from Martinelli's, side on the left, finds Ethan, no, sorry, MLS, right? And it's a great little back heel into the path of Eze. First time tapped finish into the bottom bins for his first Arsenal goal was beautiful. And look at the smile on the face. You can see how much that means to him. And once we scored in the 8th minute, I was thinking, okay, yeah, we're gonna rack it up, but never assume in football. That's always the saying. And yeah, after that goal, we was not seeing much action for the rest of the game. To be fair, Port Vale, credit to them, credit to their fans as well. Their fans were singing, the whole way through. But the game in totality was, not the most fun to watch. But always it's about the result and just progressing and whatnot. So that's what we kind of have to have our eyes set to. But you want to see good performances in these games, and you want to kind of set the tone. I felt like in terms of pattern of plays and whatnot, there was still some issues I had. I felt like it wasn't too fluid. I felt like, too much of the time we had, we were passing the ball around the back and I was inviting more pressure. And the more and more time went on, Port Vale got more confident because they were like, okay, Arsenal, they're a great team, 1 out, but we're at home, we'll give it our best. And listen, as time ticked on and ticked on, the fans got louder and louder and their confidence grew. And that's the issue. You can score 1 goal, but especially, with a team like Port Vale, who'll be, fancying their chances. And as you should always fancy, your chances when you're at home. Just give it your best and you never know. Because at the end of the day, it's 11v11. And yeah, when you don't score the second goal quick enough, that confidence starts to grow and grow. And especially, when the patterns of play are not connecting as well and, we're not necessarily playing the best of football, that's when it starts to, change the tide. But their fans were great, man. They were loud and everything. So shout out to Port Vale and their fans, man. They gave a good game to us, in terms of the effort and the endeavour. So shout out to them. Obviously, we saw a couple of changes into the second half. We saw Trossard come on, we saw Dalman come on, and we saw Gyökeres come on. And listen, this Trossard guy, his efficiency is unmatched, man. Trossard's my guy, I've been saying. I didn't even have a problem necessarily with him starting last weekend. I just felt like we could have gone for a different option as opposed to Marino, in midfield, just to kind of have the ability to progress the one connected to the front like that. That was my thing, really and truly. But Trossard's a very solid player. Very solid player. And listen, this is a guy who's got the most goals and assists for Arsenal since he's joined, behind, Saka. He's the second in that regard. So, listen, you have to big him up. He's a serious player. And especially off the bench, he studies the game well, So when he comes onto the pitch, he knows what spaces he's going to pick apart. And that showed for the goals. A great long ball from Saliba. Touch from Trossard, very assured, checks in on the right, and it's a fantastic finish, near post, low, keeper's not getting to it, and that killed the game off. And that was past the 80th minute. So this game was a funny one, to score in the 8th minute and, have all that amount of time in between, the second goal. It just showed you what type of game it was. But listen, Trossard came off the bench and he killed it, so big ups to him. Look, now we can look forward to, the game on Sunday against Newcastle. Now that is going to be a crazy game. St. James's Park is tough. you know, the crowd is always raucous and everything, and we've struggled there in the past. But listen, this is a team without, gunman Alexander Isak, so we have to take our chances there. They're still kind of like trying to adapt to, the whole new look Newcastle, so we got to go there and we got to be about our business. We've already dropped, like 5 points in crucial games where I don't believe we should have dropped as many points as that, But listen, in terms of the Carabao Cup, we've drawn against Brighton. So we've got Brighton at the Emirates Stadium. Good Premier League opposition, but let's be honest, got to be taking this, super serious. And with the quality we have in the squad, we should get past Brighton in the next round. And no disrespect to Brighton, but yeah, we just have to be about our job. And that's even if, we rotate the squad. This squad, in terms of even the quality all around, is insane. It's amazing, the talent in this squad. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing us progress in this tournament and, hopefully win it, because I feel like this is the type of trophy that if you win it, it can set you up for, a great end to the season. This is the first trophy up for grabs. I believe the finals played early spring, March, so let's go about it and win it. But yeah, man, all in all, a win, can't complain. And on to Newcastle on Sunday.